The first theatre in London built solely for performing plays was called simply The Theatre. It was built by the actor James Burbage near his family home in Holywell Street on the north bank of the Thames. Shakespeare's company, the Lord Chamberlain's Men, of which Burbage's son was a member, worked at the theatre for nearly 2 years until they had a serious dispute with Giles Allen, their landlord. The actors waited until Allen was in the country celebrating Christmas, then dismantled the entire theatre and moved it to the south bank of the Thames. At the rebuilt theatre, now called the Globe, Shakespeare created many of his finest works, including Hamlet, Macbeth, Twelfth Night, and As You Like It. In 1613, during a performance of Shakespeare's Henry VIII, a stage cannon misfired and burnt the Globe to the ground. Fortunately, no one was hurt, except one man whose breeches caught on fire. But not to worry. The man was put out with a bottle of ale, and the theater was rebuilt the next year. The Globe served as a playhouse until the Puritans closed all the theaters in 1642. In 1644, the Globe was pulled down to make way for a housing development. But in 1999, a new Globe was constructed near the original location, with monies raised by Chicago-born actor and director Sam Wanamaker. You can't keep a good theater down. Luckily, the internet neither burns down nor closes. So welcome to this week's webisode of Where There's a Will, There's a Way, Shakespeare Online.
My name is Frank Brady. I've always admired clearness of thinking and recognition of the truth of things. Macbeth's peroration in Act 5, Scene 5 epitomizes both. Receiving word that his wife has passed, he suddenly appreciates the starkness of his situation. He is beset by enemies, devoid of allies, and now without his greatest support. More than that, Macbeth realizes that beside his chief source of strength, his wife was his great love. But he has failed to avail himself of such love, choosing instead to conspire with his partner in greedy schemes for ever greater power. He has eschewed edifying romance to indulge overweening ambition. The clarity with which Macbeth expresses his abject realization lends monumental power to the notion that our time here is short and our human judgments fallible indeed. She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. Creeps in this petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
My name is Lyn Ward Page. Antonio, a shipping merchant of Venice, has applied for a loan to Shylock, the Jewish moneylender. Antonio has given the money to his friend Bassanio to help him court Portia, a wealthy heiress. Shylock has added a condition to the loan, in that if Antonio cannot remit the money on time, he must supply a pound of his own flesh. Now, Shylock may have been satirizing the fact that moneylending was one of the very few professions available to the Jewish citizens of Venice at that time. At any rate, Antonio had agreed. However, soon a terrible storm at sea destroys all of Antonio's ships. He has no money, and Shylock, without mercy, is in the court demanding the pound of flesh. Portia has married Bassanio, and she too is in the court, disguised as a male attorney, pleading for the life of her friend Antonio. Portia is clearly one of the characters contemporary critics identify as Shakespeare's strong women. Portia, Act 4, Scene 1, The Merchant of Venice. The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throned monarch better than his crown. His scepter shows the force of temporal power, the attribute of awe and majesty, wherein doth sit the dread and fear of kings. But mercy is above this sceptred sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings, and earthly power doth then show likest gods, when mercy seasons justice. Therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice none of us should see salvation. We do pray for mercy, and that same prayer for mercy doth teach us all to render the deeds of mercy.
Hi, I'm Chris Davis. 2020 audiences probably know King John from Shakespeare's play King John best as the grown-up version of Prince John from the Robin Hood stories. This is the bad guy from Robin Hood, and he's not portrayed as a particularly nice person in Shakespeare's King John either. Also, if you're familiar with the play The Lion in Winter, very famous play, King John appears in that as well when he's much younger, as well as several other characters from this play, Eleanor of Aquitaine and King Philip II of France. About Philip II of France, probably because there was already a Philip in the play. The monologue that you're about to see is spoken by Philip the Bastard, or sometimes Shakespeare just calls him Bastard. This has nothing to do with his personal character, it's because he's literally the bastard son of Richard the Lionheart. He's actually a pretty reasonable, down-to-earth guy, one of the more scrupulous characters in the play, and sort of the surprise hero by the end. So, he discovered in Act 1 that he is in fact the bastard son of Richard the Lionheart during a familial dispute in which Eleanor of Aquitaine points out that he bears a strong resemblance to her dead son Richard I. It is determined that he is in fact the bastard nephew of King John, and he is knighted, which is exciting. Less exciting, however, is that he caught John and Eleanor just as they were about to ship off to war with France. So now we're in Act 2. France and England have been battling all day long, and we are outside the small town of Angiers. Angiers is walled off by a giant stone wall, and the citizens of Angiers sort of comically pop over the top of the wall and are kind of egging on the fight. You see, the town of Angiers refuses to admit either King John of England or Philip II of France. They will only admit the victors of the battle. And in fact, at this point, since we've been fighting all day long, both King John and Philip II have sent forth heralds that have declared victory in the battle. But to the citizens of Angiers, it sort of looks like there's still some army left. Neither army has been totally decimated, so they're not really comfortable opening their gates yet for anybody. This is very confusing to Philip the Bastard, who's new to the proprieties of royal war. It's all kind of foreign to him, and he hasn't said anything in a little while until finally he comes up with this very pragmatic, if not brutal, suggestion of, well, why don't we just band together, France and England, we'll knock over the gate into Angiers, and we'll beat them to a bloody pulp, and then we can go on having a nice little civil fighting between us without having to worry about the citizens of Angiers popping over the wall to make a fool out of us while we're trying to have a pleasant war today. It's actually a pretty good suggestion, and sometimes it helps to have, just an average Joe in the room when you're doing some diplomacy. I picked this monologue because King John is one of Shakespeare's lesser performed works, also because Philip the Bastard is in fact one of Shakespeare's more well-rounded characters, especially in his English history plays. These scroyles of Angiers flout you, kings, and stand securely on their battlements, as in a theatre, whence they gape and point at your industrious scenes and acts of death. Your royal presences, be ruled by me. Do like the mutins of Jerusalem. Be friends a while, and both conjointly bend your sharpest deeds of malice on this town. By east and west let France and England mount their battering cannon, charge it to the mouths, till their soul-fearing clamors have brawled down the flinty ribs of this contemptuous city. I'd play incessantly upon these jades, until unfenced desolation leave them as naked as the vulgar air. That done, dissever your united strengths, and part your mingled colors once again. Turn face to face and bloody point to point. Then in a moment Fortune shall cull forth out of one side her happy minion, to whom in favor she shall give the day, and kiss him with a glorious victory. How like you this wild counsel, mighty states? Smacks it not something of the policy?